It is the most perfect day to just show up. Hi, everyone. Yvonne Heath here, nurse turned author, speaker, changemaker, proactive living consultant, and your host. Welcome to Navigating Grief with Heart and Humor, where we talk about, plan, and prepare for grief, transitions, challenges, end of life, and all the messiness in between, long before it arrives, and diffuse the fear so we can live fully now. Most of the time we have been in the deep trenches of grief. We have faced crisis and realized how ill-prepared we were. We did not have coping skills, strategies. We did not know how to just show up for ourselves and each other. And we want to do it differently. No one can do it for us. It starts with you, and it starts with me. And then the greatest gift we can give others is being the very best version of ourselves, our flawed, imperfect self who is willing to get it wrong and do it differently next time. And so I thank you from the bottom of my heart for just showing up today and being a part of this journey, because every time you just show up and you're willing to have a challenging conversation, an uncomfortable conversation, you can't unhear what you've heard. Sometimes we try to bury it in, but we've heard it. And so I invite you, if these conversations are challenging and you don't know how to take the next step, just pause, lean in, and reach out. Create your supportive circle who can be a part of your new journey. So as always, I like to share a fun fact before we get into the maybe more challenging conversations, although we're always going to have them with heart, humor, and humanness. But it's just funny because here in Muskoka, Ontario, where we live, beautiful part of Canada, surrounded by there's hundreds of lakes or thousands of lakes around, and it's cottage country, and everything is starting to melt. I love spring. Spring is just, to me, new beginning, and you get so excited to see something growing through the snow, and I'm out there with my rake and I'm moving the snow around so it melts quicker. But I will tell you, one of the funniest parts is we have 3 pets. Sadie, our Woodle, Wing Terrier Poodle rescue dog, and cats, Calvin and Hobbes, who, if you haven't read Calvin and Hobbes, the cartoon, you must. I just absolutely love Calvin. Reminds me of my 2 sons. Anyways, Calvin and Hobbes are a little bit excited about spring, and they have the zoomies. If you've never heard of the zoomies, Google it. Watch a cat with the zoomies. What's a cat do? Or what are the zoomies? It will make you LOL. Our cats are little bonkers right now as the weather gets warmer and warmer, and there's squirrels running around and birds. They're literally climbing the walls, like jumping on the walls, running around at Mach 100, chasing one another. And then they see a squirrel and they're in the window staring at it, and they start to chatter because they're trying to get this squirrel, or want to get this squirrel. And they see a bird and they start to chatter. And they're so excited, and then they get the zoomies and run around. I have to tell you, on my hardest day, something I can do is watch cats with the zoomies, or if my cats are calm, Google it, and I invite you to do the same. Okay, that is my fun fact for today. And before we begin, as always, I am going to do my ritual, which is what we're going to talk about today. Rituals. Whenever I want to be fully present somewhere, I want to land, I want to forget about the zoomies and the noise and everything going on in my life all around this time, I take this moment to really land here. I have my very intentional, and that's what rituals are all about, very intentional, creating this moment. My feet are planted on the floor, which I say planted on the ground, and I close my eyes and I take 2 slow, deep breaths, And when I take a slow inhale with my eyes closed through my nose, I set an intention. My intention for what I wish to bring today and what I aspire to teach or to learn as well, because we are all teachers and we are all students. And when I exhale, I let go of everything that does not serve me or the space or you. And I feel that rituals are something that we can create anytime, anywhere, and no matter where you are in a classroom, wherever, you can have a silent little ritual to ground yourself and to be fully present. So I invite you to join me or create your own ritual. And I'm going to close my eyes. Please do so as well if you feel comfortable. And I'm going to just inhale slowly through my nose and set an intention. And exhale and let go of everything else. And one more time. And letting go. That energy feels so much more peaceful, and it doesn't take long. So let's get started. And actually, that is what I'd love to explore again today. As I've been reminiscing and seeing my previous shows since early 2021 or in 2021, and the next show that or episode that I was having a look at was about creating rituals. And we in North America, our Western culture, Western culture is ritual depleted. We don't have a lot of rituals, and people used to even gather in meaningful ways, and many still do, however, not like they did before. People used to gather and everyone went to church on Sunday, or there are still many who do, and the Buddhist community, and they get together and chant. And however, there are many of us that do not participate in those rituals, and we are ritual depleted. And one of the things that rituals do is give us something, like gives things context and meaning and intention, and it's something to turn to in good times and in turmoil. So for instance, when I'm starting my show, I go through my house, and in the morning I have a ritual. And if it's the day that I'm recording my show, doing my show, I am very intentional in the morning. So I go through the house. I start as soon as my feet land on the floor. Thank you. I am grateful. Gratitude, it's not just up there. It is my greatest medicine. That's what Patch Adams says. It is one of his greatest medicines, and it is my great medicine, because no matter what we are going through, there is something to be grateful for. And so I start with gratitude, and I take 2 slow, deep breaths, and I go through my house. I take my time. I get up 2 hours before the rest of my family, and I need that time. I don't know about you, but there's something very sacred about quiet time to myself. And if you do not have any, I invite you to create a space somewhere where you can, even half an hour, get up a half hour earlier, go to bed a half hour earlier, so you can do that. That time is just so precious to me. And I do a 9-minute meditation. It's a guided meditation, and it just helps me to be very grounded. And then I go room to room in my house with incense, and I do kind of a feng shui ritual. Each area in the house is meaningful, and it's just for me a way to remind myself to be grateful for my career, to think of my family and past, and all the things that used to keep me really small and perhaps resentful, or things that happened in the past that I carried anger about. And I realized that in everything that has happened, there was something for me to learn, and it all brought me to where I am today. And so, after a lot of rituals and therapy and everything else, it doesn't mean that you are happy and thrilled and yay about things that have happened in your past. But I can see it in a bigger context of what did I learn from that? And the acceptance, there's nothing I can do about the past. I do have a choice now about what I focus on. And as I often tell my son, Tyler, that our most challenging situations or the most challenging people in our lives are our greatest teachers, and that he is one of my greatest teachers. And so as I continue, and there's the knowledge and spirituality corner, and I just take a moment to reflect, and I stretch, and I do this wonderful ritual every morning. And when it is the day that I'm going to be sharing a message on Win-Win Women, navigating grief with heart and humor, I set that intention right then and there. I want to share an important message today. What do people need to hear today? And I just carry that with me until I'm sitting in this very chair. And then, of course, as you know, when I start my show, I want to be very respectful of your time and my time and our time together. And so I have the ritual of taking 2 slow, deep breaths, creating an intention and letting go of everything else. And I do that as well in areas of my life. When I did a presentation last night, and I did it in the car before I went in. I will do it before I have to go have maybe a challenging conversation, or even a good conversation. What is the best outcome for this? And so I invite you to create rituals like this, because it doesn't take a lot of time. It just is a matter of intention and taking the time to do it. So this is something that is a part of my everyday. And of course, there are rituals that are so important when someone dies, or someone is grieving, or someone is in a crisis. And because I navigate this personally, of course I have challenges in my life and grief, and I also just show up for others daily who are grieving in a crisis. I hear stories that if I took it into my heart, if I didn't have my rituals, I would not be able to be present, to just show up for others, because I would just fall apart. And that's, when we talk about compassion fatigue and burnout, that's such a huge part of it, is that we do not have, we want to protect ourselves, and we have the armor, and then we don't let the good stuff in either. So when I am with others, when I am just showing up, and I know it's a challenging situation. I mean, last night I did a presentation, and this lovely woman came to me, and she was just so, her heart was just aching. She was in agony. Her husband had died, was in his 30s. The family, there was a lot of unhealthy dynamics, and she was just aching. And I had to be very intentional with myself, to not bring that into my heart. So I just kind of angle myself. And I know, as I've learned from one of my wonderful mentors, Debbie Lynn Grace, to just let it go past me. Because to just show up with compassion and want to help doesn't mean you have to take the pain on into your heart. And as I am speaking to her, and some of the things I shared, that this is, or I was speaking to her friend and saying, we all have our journey. We all have our journey, and it is not up to us to judge, to fix, to change, but we can love and support others along the way. And by just showing up, that is the most beautiful thing we can do. That is the most compassionate thing we can do. And to step back, for me, I need to step back and just kind of, release that energy, acknowledge and allow my feelings, acknowledge and allow their feelings, maybe have a good cry, which that's okay too. And I get back to my teaching. Everything that I teach is how I live. I mean, I am walking my talk. And so I step back and I go back to what I believe about life and death, as opposed to why did this young person die? It's not fair. Why? I don't know why. I don't know why. All I know is the greatest thing that we can do is be the evidence that his life made a difference, share his stories, allow grief and joy, keep his memories with us, keep that we stay spiritually connected. I believe this. And so now his wife, they have a spiritual connection. And of course you will grieve that physical absence, of course, to allow those feelings, to not get mired in the why. To me, that is creating excessive suffering, because what answer will ever be good enough? So part of my ritual is reminding myself, we do not all die of old age. We do not always get a warning. We are here as long as we are here. And whatever our life is our full life, however long it is. And then I come back and I always read my wonderful, we are just passing through. Our purpose here is to observe, to learn, to grow, to love, and then to return home. And I've shared, well, I was crooked there. I've shared this many times. And this is part of my acceptance. Life is unpredictable. Prepare for anything. Change is the only constant. And so I accept our impermanence. We are not permanent. We are all temporary. And for me, this is a ritual of going through this, and then I come home and I light my beautiful candle, which is right here. Here's my beautiful candle. I've shared this before. And I will write down, I asked this woman her husband's name, and I write his name in a heart, and I light the candle, and I send them love and support, and say, when you are ready, there are many resources. You do not have to do this alone. And again, of course, as in my message, I'm sharing my 7 takeaways. Imagine if we were a society that created these rituals and that we lived proactively. We had conversations about life and death throughout. What do you believe about life and death? Wow, that's fascinating. Let's talk about that before it arrived. Or, as most of the time, when we realized how well prepared we were and we want to do it differently, let's normalize these conversations, create our supportive village, learn how to just show up for one another, and live our lives in a way that we are self-reliant, not that we're not asking, giving, and receiving help and just showing up for one another. But when, not if, when someone we love dies, wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to get to the grieving and to get to being the evidence that they made a difference, their lives made a difference, and creating rituals in memory of this person, creating an altar, creating whatever's meaningful for you, instead of, oh my goodness, I don't know what he would have wanted. I don't know who should get what. Everyone's fighting. I don't know how to live in my house by myself. There's the self-reliance I'm speaking to. And so again, when there are challenging situations, part of my ritual so that I can just show up and not feel burned out or compassion fatigue is living my beliefs and reminding myself and creating this ritual. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we created rituals together as a family, whatever your family unit is, or as friends or neighbors, whatever it may be? What if someone died in your neighborhood and you were all very close? And if you're not close to your neighbors, get to know them, create that compassionate neighborhood. That is the greatest community you could have. So what if, as your neighborhood, we have the forest over here. I feel like when someone dies in our neighborhood, there's a small little park. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we all gathered and shared stories and wrote stories down and gave it to their family, and perhaps planted a little tree, a shrub, a flower, something. Last year, one of the paramedics Jordy works with, his wife died, and she was just such a beautiful soul. And the family gave everyone that was there little seeds of daffodils to plant in her memory. So we all went home and planted them, and I cannot wait to see them come up. And I will call his family and I will say, hey, Heather's daffodils just popped. They're beautiful. I will take pictures and I will call them Heather's daffodils, because it will always be part of my ritual. And in my book, I said, wherever you are, plant a lilac tree or whatever flowering tree, and let that be the memory of me. Look up into the sky and feel connected to me. I love looking at the sky and the clouds and everything. Think of these things. So part of my ritual is having these conversations ongoing with my family. And one more I want to share, that beautiful friend of mine sent me in a book, and I've shared before, and I'm going to keep sharing, that we are getting ready for tremendous grief and joy. as at this time, our twins, Jane and Tanner, who are 18, are getting ready to leave the nest. And we've given them roots and wings, and that's the greatest thing we can do. And they will not be leaving in September for university, but they will be leaving in June because they are camp counselors. And so we have even less time. And my friend sent me this beautiful, she was so lovely. And, talk about just showing up. Thank you, Carrie. Carrie Sawatsky, who is also very passionate about helping people navigate this beautiful journey and navigate life, grief, death, and everything in between. I believe it's called Modern Death Care. But anyways, you can Google Carrie Sawatsky. But she took pictures of passages in this book, and it was about creating rituals as your children are preparing to leave home. And it talks about getting a suitcase, perhaps a vintage suitcase, a new suitcase, whatever, just a little suitcase, whatever it may be, and reflecting, perhaps together, on your core values of your family, the values that you want your children to carry with them, the values that you have been passionate about instilling, or kind of hope that they were listening when you were trying to talk to them about it, and talking to them and having conversations, and then finding meaningful trinkets to reflect those values, those things that are important to you as a family unit, or inviting friends to do the same. What was important in your relationship? And perhaps it's something old, something new, whatever it may be, it doesn't matter, something tattered, whatever it may be. And what a beautiful way to say, we are still connected. And I think it is such an amazing gift in times of uncertainty for your children and yourself. And my create my own suitcase. When they are feeling lost, disconnected from family, they fail to grade, because there will be those moments. There will be those hard moments. Of course there will. That's life. Wouldn't it be wonderful if they could pull out this beautiful little box, suitcase, whatever it may be, and inside are all these wonderful trinkets? It's kind of like a self-care toolbox, but just very intentional with this. And perhaps there are trinkets in there from a neighbor who's close, a teacher that they were close to, a friend, grandparent, whoever it may be, or just your nuclear family. Whatever it could be, whatever is meaningful for you. And I know we're all busy, and yet I am going to be very intentional about creating the space to start this suitcase, to start to fill it with, maybe, I don't know what's going to be in there, but I will share as we go along. I know that this is huge. Just it's so big for me, because I became a parent at age 28, and I mean, I'm 58. Not like we're talking about 30 years. And when our older son Tyler left, it was a very challenging time, and he was struggling, and he needed to get out of this town and start new. And we also had twins at home. So I mean, it was still very hectic and chaotic. And now these twins are Jaden and Tanner are going to be spreading their wings. So it will be the first time without children at home for 30 years. So thank goodness for Sadie the dog and Calvin and Hobbes with the Zoomies. And I'm so grateful that I understand navigating grief and joy, and they can coexist, and I will acknowledge and allow my feelings. I'm not going to bury them, and I will create more and more rituals. And I've already started with the wall of collages. For me, nice little ritual is reminiscing and taking time to look at old pictures and memories, etc. So there are so many things that we can create a ritual around or for. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. It doesn't have to cost anything. But I promise you to be connected to a ritual as we navigate life, grief, end of life transitions, and everything in between will be something very helpful. It has made a world of difference for me. And I invite you to do the same and share. I would love to hear what rituals you already have in place, what rituals that you want to create. And we can explore this together. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share some of my ideas, for sharing your ideas with me. This is how we support one another. And you know that my website, loveyourlifetodeath.com, please visit it, watch the archive shows, of course, on Win-Win Women, and you can watch my TEDx talk, and there's so many wonderful resources that I've created on my website, and I've shared other resources, and of course the I Just Showed Up bracelets. Oh yeah, that's definitely going in, these are going in the suitcase. And my book, Love Your Life to Death, which again, it was such a privilege to write and to share so many beautiful stories. So thank you again. I'm excited about all of us creating more rituals, and just be creative or just lean into it. All you have to do is start, and perhaps talk to some friends who you know have wonderful rituals. There's so many cultures out there that have brilliant, beautiful, rich cultures. You can learn from all of our beautiful communities that do things differently and sometimes a lot better. And so in the meantime, once again, I invite you to connect. Thank you for being a part of my journey. It's an honor to be a part of yours. And as always, I must share my very important call to action, because in order to navigate this journey we call life and not suffer excessively, we must become proactive and not reactive. However we were in the past, we need to invite ourselves, say, you know what, that was in the past. I'm going to do it differently from now on, because that is the very best thing we can do. We can learn from the past, and we can do it differently moving forward, and we can teach by example. And truly, one of the greatest examples is saying, yeah, this is how I used to do it, and I suffered excessively. And now, at any age, I'm going to learn how to do it differently. And we can do it together. And it has to start with my call to action. If you want to create beautiful rituals, and if you want to teach by example, you must start as a proactive person. Plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party, or whatever instrument you want to play. Thank you so much. Let's keep having these wonderful, amazing conversations. I love you with all my heart. Take good care of you, because you have value and you matter. Bye for now.